fish. It seems he went to a people of Rimini, giving themselves over to heresy, in which the preached in true faith to them, but they ignored him. So instead he preached to the beach, as fish were, all sizes and shapes of fish came to the surface, arranged themselves and rose, and listened intently. And those who witnessed this miracle returned to faith, repented, and accepted the message of his preaching. Well, many of you would be familiar with the story of the man with his mule, a very rich merchant, who denied the real presence of the Lord in the Eucharist. And to test Saint Anthony, he claimed that he proposed a challenge. He said to test, see if this was true. If Saint Anthony could make his donkey kneel before the Blessed Sacrament, then he would believe. So they had this place where they would meet, town centre, town square. Several days later, the man starved his donkey for all of this time, so the donkey would be tended by food. So at the 3 moments, Saint Anthony disposed of the sacrament while the merchant placed a part of the hay nearby. Miraculously, the donkey walked past the hay, not before the Blessed Sacrament. Witnessing this, the merchant, Bonilla, his name was, got off the donkey, and many others converted, acknowledging the truth of the real presence of Christ in the Blessed Sacrament. Saint Anthony had preaching. Then, again, you might be familiar with the fact that his opponents, a person with such a man of great influence, bringing people to faith, and because of that, people were in many ways changing their way of life, they were reforming their way of life, which was to the chagrin of those who were losing, say, the popularity that they once had, and they were, because of the businesses they were running and the schemes of Patron, they were losing a great deal of support and money. So they invited Saint Anthony across and poisoned his liver. Saint Anthony, realising this, made a sign of the cross over what was about to be, renouncing his trust in God's providence, and he can live without unusual effects. Many witnesses, even those who tried to do away with him, came to believe and reform their lives. There's the other story of the young man who was cruel to his own mother, cruelly kicked his own mother, and realised the horror of what he'd done, how it hurt his mother so badly, attempted to hang his foot, believing it was divine punishment. Saint Anthony was called, prayed over the young man, and reattached his foot. So many other things happen, but one of the things that will be a feature of what we do is the distribution of the bread of Saint Anthony. Some of you might know the story. The story goes about how a woman's son died in the basement, drowned in the basement, a 20-month-old son. So what she did, she prayed to Saint Anthony that if her son was restored, she would give forth the weight of bread of her son. The child was miraculously restored to life. And that's where the custom of using bread has come from. But there's another event that took place with this lady. A very wealthy nobleman had decided that his wife, the baby